It seemed like a very long time.
Right now, with the understanding basically that I'm striving to get to that point where I can love unconditionally everybody on the level regardless of where they're at, that I respect them. Not necessarily understand them, but I respect the differences, and then because of the love that I have in me, I love them in spite of whatever they might be or whatever they might do. I might not agree with it, but I still have love for them and treat them the same that I wish to be treated. But I'm just struggling with some issues, with some aspects of that.
So how is unconditional love different from being swell?
Being who?
Swell, nice guy, polite, respectful. Is there a difference between the two?
I think so.
What is that difference?
Being sometimes a nice guy or being swell, as you say, you kind of go along with the program, but if you really, to me, when you really love someone, even if you see them doing something wrong, and because you love them, you still pull them aside and you let them know.
What is the characteristics of one's interaction on the basis of real love? When you are doing I love you, what does that look like?
There's some effort and some struggle.
Does it come with responsibilities and obligations?
Mm-hmm.
And what is required to do I love you from the individual? What must you be capable of in order to do I love you, to do this unconditional love? You say, you see, beloved, that you want to love unconditionally. What does that require?
It is not merely a matter of wishful thinking. A very real ability is required, isn't it? How will you love unconditionally if you don't have that ability? And what is required in order to become capable of such radical demonstration of love? What does that require of you beyond wishful thinking? What kind of work?
I'm not sure.
You see, beloved, unconditional love is itself a reflection of one having attained a very, very high spiritual condition in the first place. The usual and ordinary person is simply not capable of unconditional love. In fact, they're not even capable of conditional love, let alone unconditional love. They're not capable of loving their children, loving their husband, loving their wife, loving those who are in an intimate relationship with them. The possibility of them having unconditional love for the balance of humanity is nonsense. It is self-delusional at best. To become capable of true unconditional love, one must completely transcend oneself, i.e. the ego. And unless and until one has been able to transcend one's own selfish predisposition, then the possibility of unconditional love is out of the question. It's a nice goal. So I'm not undermining your goal. I'm simply saying if you wish to fulfill that goal, then you have to get to work. You have to do something spiritual. You have to do something real. You have to undo your own egoic condition. You have to forget about yourself. That's what makes it unconditional. Jesus, the great mystic, said, take no thought for thyself. You cannot practice, truly practice, anything like unconditional love as long as you are preoccupied with thoughts about yourself, even your image. Most often, we strive to do all these swell things because we want people to praise us, to look upon us as good people. That's the payoff, to be thought of as a nice guy, nice sister. That's not so unconditional, is it? So people talk and say all kinds of things about love, as if love is a small matter. Love is a great matter, and unconditional love is the greatest matter of all. And it requires a tremendous process of purification of your own body-mind, purification of your own selfishness before you become capable of doing I love you unconditionally. This simply cannot be done from the position of the ego. That simply does not happen. So, in order for you to love unconditionally, beloved, then you must find some means and ways to become liberated from your own ego. Because that's the only barrier, you see. You ask, what must I do to become capable of the demonstration and of doing I love you unconditionally? You must transcend your ego. And the moment you have transcended your ego, love happens, and not before. So ultimately what becomes relevant in your case is to begin to find out about this process of transcending ego. Something else to say about it? We're going to be here a while, so you might as well come on. Parvakaji, then Punsa, and then we'll start with our sister first.
But you find that maybe people could have less difficulty with unconditional love if they were had less expectations, or if they were more in love with individuals than their fantasies.
Yes, that's true. The problem becomes, beloved, how can they actually transcend expectations? How can they actually transcend their fantasies? This is where they're at. This is their condition. They operate out of that condition. So it's the condition that they're trying to do I love in the front that automatically.
And this spiritual process is about the transcendence of that contains all your fantasies, i.e. the mind. So as one begins to really understand what the spiritual process is about, then it becomes very clear why one has failed in one's life and in the past in achieving and fulfilling their goals of being loving toward all others, especially those who are intimately related to them. Yes, they want to do that, but they simply don't have what it takes. They don't have that much freedom. A great freedom is required to love. Freedom from those very things. You see, sister? Those impulses to be selfish, and you are strong. You follow me? You have been conditioned. You have been culturalized, socialized to be selfish, to be preoccupied with your own self. You see? And that conditioning has to be broken and transcended before you even can act on the ideal and the philosophy of love. You see? So there's something that has to be done in order to live your life on the basis of the philosophy of love. There's a very real ordeal and process that has to be undergone. And yes, you're absolutely right. If one can transcend these fantasies, these expectations, what I have called wrong view. They have a wrong view. They don't see things the way things really are.
What would be a good or a beginning avenue to be enlightened or to be educated to get out of that condition?
You see, the answer to that has been stated by all of the mystics,
All founders of religion since time immemorial. They said that if one is interested in becoming liberated from one's inherent conditioning that keeps you selfish, that keeps you blind, that keeps you incapable of really living your life at your inherent level of potential, spiritual potential. If you are truly interested in such liberation, then you must find the company of a guru. You must find the company of someone who has liberated themselves from that. You must find their company. And you must submit to the process and ordeal that they offer you in order to come up out of that condition. Now, this is what the realizers have said about it. You see, there is simply no method of self-analysis that will consequence in enlightenment. Please make a note of that. In our times that we are living in, ordinarily, the usual individual is under the impression that through some kind of method of self-analysis and self-examination, that they will be able ultimately to transcend the ego. You cannot transcend the ego through self-analysis. That's just more ego activity. Are you following me? Now, you have to understand what I mean by ego. I'm not talking about arrogance here. And I don't know if you've had a chance to hear my arguments on ego, but there's a book on the book table titled Who Am I? And in that I offer you my arguments about ego and what it is. But for the sake of our discussion in the moment, let me simply define ego as the presumption of being the body-mind. Now, this is very interesting. You have a sense of self. Is that right, beloved? We all do. And your sense of self fundamentally is based on this body and the mind. The feeling is that I am this body-mind. Now, with that presumption comes all of the problems that an individual will have in their life. With that presumption that you are the body-mind, that very presumption now eliminates your possibility of being enlightened. It eliminates your possibility of ever doing I love you. It eliminates your possibility of ever doing the truth. In fact, it eliminates your possibility of even experiencing the truth or realizing the truth. You are contracted. You are limited by that very presumption. And so this is what must be inspected. When you say I, when Priscilla G said, I want to be capable of doing unconditional love, what is that I referencing to? We just talked about the word God referencing to this ultimate reality. It points to something. What does your I reference? Have you inspected that? Pause for a moment. It's interesting, isn't it? When you say I, what are you referring to? Other than this body-mind. This is ego. Ego is the presumption that I am this body-mind, which is fundamentally separate from that body-mind. Is that right? Separate from that body-mind. In fact, separate from God. Right? And this is interesting. If we have defined God as the only reality, is there any possibility of you being something other than God? No, don't patronize me, beloved. Is that possible? Huh? Yes, I mean, when we say God is the only one. That is what the African mystic says. If you have ever read the hymn to Ra, the book of the transformations of Ra, and in that book, the statement is the only one. Hail to thee, the only one. Meaning, there is nothing else. There is no other. Everything is a manifestation of God. There is nothing else, including you.
We are conditioned to think that we're raised to think that. But we go through life and we seemingly forget that.
Forget which
There's only one reality. It's only one. It's God. It's your ultimate reality, your ultimate hope, and everything. So you go and you experience things and you seemingly forget that fact. And I run into so many people just older, 50s plus, and they
watch
might
it.
have
Careful. Look around here. All right. Clean it up.
Who wish that they had found or they had accepted their reality years prior.
See, that's the key, to accept it. Right. Now, you hear it all the time, but you're just hearing it.
So is that because of a lack of trust, or is that because of the power of fantasy? Because
it is.
You know the truth.
No, you don't know the truth.
Okay.
That's the whole point. There you go. You don't know the truth. The problem is ignorance. You see, it is ignorance, obviously. To not have the experience of this only one, this only reality, when God is the only reality that there is, and to not have that experience is indicative of a profound blindness.
And never run into someone who has had the experience.
I try.
It just seems like a wasted life.
Yes. Just another wasted life. Wasted life. That is exactly what the mystics have said. To have this human birth and this opportunity that is your life, and to not attain that realization is to have wasted this life. Period. It is a profound matter. We'll say more about it. I suggest you get the book and then consider those arguments, and then you can give me a call and we'll have now a framework to take the discussion into great depth. I don't want to cheat you. It will require a long conversation with us and some other people. Yes. I will come to you, brother. Let me return to Paravaka, then Kunsa, and then we will come to you. And would you all remember that order? I'm over 50. Yes, sir. Actually, you see, Padavakaji, you all are really in a mood for African deep thought, huh? You want some God talk. Now, this is a very important matter to consider. You must inspect the presumption that you are
the doer. Remember, I was talking to Sister just a moment ago that the ego is the presumption that I am this body, mind, and all that that involves and implies. Part of that presumption of being the body, mind also includes the presumption that I am the doer of that which is done by this body. Interesting. Now inspect that presumption, because the path begins with a radical inspection of the presumptions of being an ego. That's where the path begins. You really cannot truly and rightly enter into the depths of sadhana and the spiritual process without first having made this inspection. Now, when you inspect this notion and presumption that I am the doer, what do you find out? And for the moment, let us set aside the spiritual argument about it. And let's look at conventional knowledge and what it has to say about it, i.e. science. You've all taken biology. Who has not had biology? When you inspect the process of the very existence of this body, what do you discover is really involved in that process? When you investigate and inspect the very process that is responsible for the very existence of the body at the most fundamental level, at the level of its biology, its physiology. What is it that you discover? What does the science reveal about such investigation? What is this made out of, first of all? Atoms. So you begin to see that this body is a reflection of some activity going on at the level of atoms, molecules, and et cetera, et cetera. When we become students of biology, those atoms and molecules combine into cells, right? So fundamentally, this body is made up of what? Come on, Biology 101. Cells, right? Cells. Well, tissues are made of cells. Made up of millions and millions of cells, isn't it? Is that right? And what do cells do? They convert energy, right? So some cells convert food into energy to fuel the body, right? Cells have very specific tasks that they perform within the body. Is that about right, folks? There are groups of cells that are responsible for the digestion of food. There are groups of cells that are responsible for maintaining body temperature. There's groups of cells responsible for muscle and the moving of your lungs. There's cells in the body that is responsible for the conversion of this into oxygen, and so forth and so on. I won't take you through Biology 101 again. I simply wanted to remind you that those who have investigated this have seen that the body essentially is nothing but a colony, a nation of cells cooperating with each other for the purposes of sustaining this colony. Are you with me? The question that I have to you now, what role and where are you at in this process? Huh? What role are you playing in the growing of fingernails? What role do you play in the growth of hair? Huh? Just don't make me feel good by saying yes. I want you to consider it, truly consider it. What role is this self playing in the very processes of the existence of that which you feel you are, i.e. this body mind? Is it playing any role? What are you doing in this process? Huh? Yes, but it is cells that even trigger the urge to eat. I say your body, mind. I'm just beginning with you at the level of biology. If we had time today, we can really stretch out here, right? Because we have not even begun to discuss this nervous system, which is sitting at the top of the whole colony, isn't it? Right? So when you're doing what you call thinking, that's synapses firing off in the brain, aren't they? You're not even thinking. This is profound. The you, the self that you've presumed to be, that is this body and mind, that sense of self is not doing anything even related to and involved in the process of the very existence of this body, mind itself. Then what is it doing? Have you thought about it? Yes, beloved. Right. Give that man the Golden Apple Award. Does it do anything else? That's a part of observation. We call it witnessing. Does it do anything else? Is it the doer of your eating? Does it eat food and process it and convert it and all of that? Does it work? Does it have sex? Does it have any problems? Is it unhappy? Unhappiness is a body-mind condition, isn't it? It has nothing to do with the self, does it? Now, we can push the argument much further. Just wait. I know you all have to forgive him. This is just those who don't know, this is Anaraji. He may jump up any moment now. Just don't pay him no attention. I'll get to him. So you see, Paravakaji, this presumption of being the doer arises out of this presumption of being this body-mind. But upon closer examination and in a deeper inspection of that presumption, the discovery is that you're not doing anything. In fact, if the investigation is profound, what you begin to realize at the very peak of that profundity is that the self is not the body-mind. But rather, the body-mind is an imposition on or a cover over the self. And that the self, true self, the self, is nothing but pure consciousness and awareness. And it is never anything else in all the three states of the body-mind, i.e. waking, sleeping, dreaming. It is a profound realization. And it is this that is to be realized. Not simply logically appreciated. You see my point? Here I have entered you into a process of logic. So logically you can understand how you are nothing but consciousness. But that's not the realization that you are nothing but consciousness. You follow me? I want you to enjoy the distinction, because otherwise you would think that such a logical analysis is somehow tantamount to being enlightened. You are as unenlightened as prior to the process. You follow me? but certainly you're able to appreciate it a little bit more. Tat tuam asi, thou art that. And the goal of sadhana, abhyasa, spiritual practice then, is the relocation of your sense of self with that which you are, i.e. pure consciousness. And with that, the illusion of being the body-mind snaps, and all of your human problems come crashing down. Because with this presumption that I am the body-mind, there now becomes the problem of the death of the body-mind. That's interesting, isn't it? You see, you have only one problem, that you're going to die. Your sense of self, because it is based on the presumption of being the body-mind, now exposes you to the thing called death. Because you understand, this is matter. This is not going to be here forever. You see? This must end. It is matter. It is temporary. It is mortal. With the presumption of being the body-mind, you become mortal. From immortal, you become mortal. At least in your mind. You have the experience of mortality. And all of the fears that is associated with it. So now you have this problem that I'm going to die. Because remember, when you say I, you are still referring to this body-mind, its history and all of the other implications associated with such presumption. Are you following me? And in the back of your mind, you know this is going to die. That's the only problem you got. All other problems are peripheral. Your problem is that the you that you feel you are is going to end. And you don't know when, you don't know where, and you don't know under what circumstances, but you know it's coming to an end. Now, that creates great stress and tension in you. Is that about right? Is that about right? Now, this is stress. The knowledge that you will die creates stress, tension, a kind of urgency, a great discomfort. And so now, in your mind, you're thinking you must find some kind of way to protect yourself from this eventuality that is death. So the first characteristic of the behavior of the ego-bound individual is that they are constantly involved in thinking all the time of some kind of way to protect themselves from death, harm. This become a part of their mental, emotional, and even physical preoccupation, what we have called egoity. The second one, nourishment, because I got to feed this thing to keep it living. You see, it is not an immortal thing. It has to be fed. So nourishment becomes your next preoccupation. You all know that in America, we have a problem with overnourishment. You can see to what extent that occupies and that is at the forefront of our every waking state. Nourishment. Not just in terms of the food for the body, but nourishment in every respect. And so this obsession and preoccupation with foraging for some form of nourishment characterizes ego activity. And since this thing is subject to pain, then pleasurization of this body becomes the third defining characteristic of the ego behavior that arises from the presumption of being this body-mind. Constantly involved in how to pleasurize it. Constantly. Constantly. And the fourth activity, of course, is perseverance. You don't want to end this. You're looking for some kind of way to preserve this definition of yourself as being the body-mind. You're trying to preserve that forever. You're trying to eternalize it. You're trying to exist forever like this. Now, there are different schools of thought regarding how to accomplish such eternal preservation of this body-mind self that you have come to identify with. Religion, science. Science says by acquiring a great deal of knowledge, we'll be able to eventually control nature, and we'll find some kind of way to prolong this body forever. We'll freeze the damn thing, by a policy now, we'll freeze it, 1,000 years when we come up with a way to create cells and new life, we're going to hook you up. You see my point? So science offers that as a solution to your ego problem. Are you following me? So science is nothing but a response to the attempt to solve the problem of the ego. But so is religion. Religion says, okay, we got another way to do this. You see? Here's some dogma, here's some doctrine, you do this, and you see, at a certain point out in the future, there's going to be a second coming, and we're going to raise you up out of the grave and put life back into you. Or you will live essentially in some disembodied form, but it'll look just like this one, feel just like this one. You'll recognize yourself. So both religion and science, at least religion at its lowest level, I won't say that it's true about high religion, but most people never come in contact with high religion. You're coming into contact with storefront and downtown religion. So both of these then is a kind of response to the ego dilemma. And both of them fail to give you the kind of relief that you really need. Even those who, for instance, pursue religion, they have a problem because ordinarily the logic that is offered for the proof that there is God in religion is that God is, of course, the creator, and he's all good, loving, kind. The problem with that is when you inspect your life and living, you find the presence of evil and suffering. And eventually, this becomes difficult for the merchants of religion. Because now, people start having a problem with buying this notion of a loving and all good God when there's so much evil and suffering in this world. You follow me? And part of the struggle of the task and challenge to contemporary modern religion is to somehow convince their adherents to disregard that. You know what I mean? That he done made another world for you. Well, that ain't happening. That shit ain't happening up there. So, you see my point? Just wait till you die, then you can live. That's the proposition. Pie in the sky. You will live later on in paradise. Blah, 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 blah. So with this presumption that you are the body, mind, and the doer of all the activities associated with this body, mind, comes the problem of all problems, the problem of death. The prior awareness of your eventual demise become the basis for great stress, great tension. And ultimately it creates a disease state. I have called it ego disease. Now, most of you are here simply looking for a cure to your ego disease. That's about it. You're looking for a way to become cured from the problems of being an ego, which is your eventual demise, the uncertainty of it all, so forth and so on. You try to see if there's something I will say or something in one of those books or on one of those tapes that is going to enable you to do and fulfill one of your 4 fundamental goals, which is to protect, right, nourish, pleasurize, and preserve yourself. You're looking for a way to make yourself feel better in the midst of the knowledge that you're going to die. Well, the path has nothing to do with consoling you. It has nothing to do with making you feel better as an ego. The path has only to do with the process, the radical process of transcendence of this ego and this false sense of self that is the root of all your problems. The path does not seek to cure your ego disease by functioning like some medicine. You're not a patient here in the house, you see. It's about the transcendence of ego and nothing else. Hence, ultimately, you see, the path and the guru is useful only to that person or those persons who are truly interested in transcending ego, truly interested in real liberation. And you simply will not be interested in real liberation until you have first inspected your presumption. Are you following me? You asked, how do you get out of this? And I said earlier, you find a guru and you have his company, but technically, you don't even need a guru beyond a certain point if all you are interested in is acquiring the teachings of the guru, because that's available in books. You only need a guru if you are interested in practicing that which leads to the transcendence of your ego. Then you need a guru, not otherwise. So most of us, even when we have the company of the guru, we don't know how to make right use of it. Those of you who have been on the path for a while, pause for a moment. Think about it. How do you use the guru? What are you using your guru for, other than the acquisition of information? A kind of resource and reference guide. It's some kind of means for giving you some relief from your ego disease. Which I believe is part of the characteristics of this ego disease. It's a profound suffering from doubt. Interesting. Doubt. Confusion. Incomplete knowledge. You don't know what to do. You're suffering in your egoic condition and shit. You don't know what to do about it. You don't know how to give yourself any relief. You don't know how to fix it. You don't know how to make yourself feel better. You're confused. You don't even know if you can feel better. And you don't know whether I should do this or should I do that. What should I do? Doubt, confusion, fear, anxiety. And then you come to the path and to the Guru in search of some kind of cure for this state of doubt, confusion, so that you can feel somehow better at the level of your ego. You come here for medicine for your ego disease. You really don't have any use for a Guru. Or the God realization process, for that matter. So in ancient times, you see, beloved, the saints and sages were very much aware of that. And so they made sure that they somehow would discourage those who were coming, seeking for the superficial relief from the egoic condition. And they created all kinds of barriers, obstacles for those people coming to the path. Usually they would not initiate them. They would set some trial before them that obviously they will fail at. Sometimes they would locate their teaching school deep into the jungles around wild animals to discourage people from even coming, because they know the ego-bound individual is scared of danger. They go in there, the tiger may kill me, and the ego-bound person is strictly about protection, you see, so they ain't going up in there. Or they will locate their teaching schools and ashrams up in the mountains, way up in the mountains, because they know that the ego-bound individual is not about to go through all that discomfort. Because remember, one of the goals of the ego-bound person suffering from their ego disease is that they must always maintain comfort in the level of the body, the level of the emotions in the mind. They must always be comfortable. You see? Because that's all they seek, is to pleasurize themselves to the point of comfort. They don't want to do anything uncomfortable. You see? Those of you rascals who have somehow by grace slipped through the barriers, your first complaint when you come onto the path is sitting, Bhagwan, sit in the meditation. That hurt. My knees are hurting. I can't do this. Because you can't even go past the discomfort that is necessary to learn how to sit. You're trying to find some posture that don't hurt. You spend years doing that. It just gives, that's what the ego-bound individual is about, the avoidance of any discomfort. You're having trouble with the diet because, man, that's too inconvenient. I got to come, I'm used to just pulling up in Kentucky Fried Chicken and getting my dinner, man. I got to come home and boil some rice and blah, 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 blah. Man, I can't handle this. And so forth and so on. Much of the disciplines given to you then, even when you come in contact with the Guru, for you, it's a great discomfort. It's an inconvenience. It interferes with the ego-bound individual ambition to always maintain maximum comfort. That's the goal of the ego. So in ancient days, beloved, you see the saints and sages, would purposely remove themselves from such individuals. The path and the teachings simply was not given to them at all. The path, the teachings were given to those who were dinkering, those who were fit, those who were capable of using them. Those who ego-transcendent impulse was strong. Most of you have a very, very weak to non-existent impulse to transcend your ego. Please make a note of that. Very weak, almost non-existent. Your impulse is the reverse, to hold on to your egoic condition and try to preserve that condition throughout eternity. You see? That is what you are impulsed toward. But the path is simply not for those kinds of individuals. desert has been referred to as the path of the lion. Way of the warrior. Those who are not afraid of spiritual warfare. Those who are not afraid to put in that spiritual work. The hard school. You see, most of you are not looking for the hard school. Again, as I said earlier, you're looking for some method of self-analysis by which you can become enlightened. You're prepared to do that. Analyze. Think, analyze. But you're not prepared to enter into the ordeal of the hard school. Real sadhana, real abhyasa, real work. That you're not willing to do. And only those who have become willing, indeed, more than just willing, but involved in the hard school, have any need for a guru beyond the mere familiarization with the teaching, and tend to not make use of the guru beyond that point. You see? Guru Sahib, on page 99 of this book, he said, what did you mean by that? Oh, I meant blah, blah, blah. Okay, thank you. No meditation has been done. You see my point? Just, more teachings to feed into your little self-analysis process, thinking that you're going to be able to somehow think yourself and analyze yourself into a state of enlightenment. That's not going to happen. So what is it about the company of the Guru, then, that makes the difference? It is what they have called the siddha of the Guru, the shaktipat, the grace, the power of the Guru, the influence of the Guru. That's what is necessary. So, beloved, when you seek a Guru, you're not coming to a Guru just to get some teachings. And this time that we live in, you go in any bookstore, anywhere in this country or in the world for that matter, and walk in any section on mysticism and pull teachings right off the shelf. They got them all. You see? That wasn't the case in ancient time, was it? You couldn't go and pull down the Vedanta, or Chavaism off of a shelf. You could not even access those teachings. In those days, it was hidden knowledge, secreted knowledge. And the question becomes, most people who think about it, well, Bhagwan, why is it out here now? Well, one of the problems is that the mystics themselves are responsible to some degree for the reemergence of this profound knowledge in the public arena. In ancient times, you see, it was the responsibility of the exoteric church, the institution, to hook people up to the secret knowledge. You see? That is when churches and mosques and temples and synagogues and other religious institutions were still connected to some adept, some mystic, some guru, you see, was standing behind all of that. And there was this exoteric or public level, you see. People would come into that public arena. And those who were ego-bound would sit on this side, right? And those who were sufficiently adinkarant, whose impulse was strong enough, was passed on to these gurus by the official. Much like in the temple of Karnak or Edfu, you see? You just didn't walk into the holies of holies. You understand? That was a process. You had to be handed up. And so it was these priests and officials, you see, who always kept their eye peeled on the lookout for those kinds of individuals who were adinkarant. And they would get passed up to the adept and then handled from there. But over the course of time, these very institutions themselves deteriorated and lost their connection to the adept, or that line of adepts that was standing behind the institution came to an end. And now what was left was just the external institution, you understand? And nobody was getting serviced, even those who had the requisite degree of impulse. They would come to these institutions in search of it. And there was nobody there that could even recognize them, let alone hook them up. And so it was for the sake of those seekers, you see, that some of the knowledge was put back out. You see. So that they can hear about it. They pick it up out of a bookstore, a library somewhere, and they can read, right? They encounter the teachings. And if they are truly a dinker, and then they know the next step, they go find them a guru. It's clear. You see my point? They find the guru on the basis of the discovery. So it all has its place, you see.
Medication is not something that you can just find a quick answer to.
No, can't find a quick answer. It is lifelong. That's right. Most people think that enlightenment is the result of some kind of immediate involvement
In a night of self-analysis or something. It is a process.
You believe that you are really on a good flow. Then you come in contact with others in your experiences, your daily experiences, your life experiences,
Yes.
who are not on the track. And it kind of makes you feel, it kind of makes you get into a relapse stage.
I understand. You see, and that is part of the ordeal. That's the struggle. That's the test, is to see what you make out of it. If I know it is the truth, I got to do the truth. And I don't really give a damn about the rest of the people. You see, it challenges you to see where you are at in your commitment. Are you committed to doing the truth, or are you committed to maintaining your ego support? Because you need these other people at some level. They are part of your pleasurizing, protection, nourishment syndrome. You understand? That's your medicine. And so a test is put before you. What do you want? Choose on this day. What will it be? Truth or more bullshit? It's that simple. It's really that simple. Now, there are those who can make it past that, who have understood that of all of the possibilities for their life and living, they cannot even conceive of anything greater than the attainment of God realization. The very thought of using their life for anything else doesn't even enter into their mind. This kind of person is a thinker. God realization becomes a matter of life and death. You see my point? And in that moment when I have discovered the truth, it does not really matter what anybody else thinks. I am still committed on the basis of that revelation to do it. Are you following me? I don't need consensus. You see, you're looking for consensus. And the search ain't about that. And when that individual becomes totally mature and totally prepared, there's a saying that when the chela is ready, that's how it goes. You see? But only when the chela is ready, not before. And this guru, in the company of the guru, is very different from the process of self-analysis and the mere reading of the teachings. You see? The Shaktiput, the grace of the guru, is a very specific force. It has very specific functions. It's interesting. Have you thought about it? What is the specific functions of the grace in the Shaktipat and the influence of the guru in the life of those who have become committed to practice? Now remember, I'm talking about those who have become committed to a life of practice. Now, I'm not talking about individuals who are still looking for esoteric information that will help them cure themselves of their ego disease. You follow me? Not those who are simply looking for information that they can use to make themselves feel better, to get rid of the heebie-jeebies, so they can settle down and relax and be liberated
from some of this anxiety about their upcoming impending death. You know what I mean? But those who are really, truly committed to a life of real practice, real ego transcending, who've understood what it's all about, then those individuals are able to make use of the Guru's company and the force of that Saktipakta and grace. But what is the specific functions of that Saktipakta, that grace? Yes, so obviously one of the first things is about creating and draw them up into a position to transcend the ego, isn't it? That's the obvious thing. The function of that force is to destroy the ego presumption in you. Are you following me? It is to undermine that whole presumption that I am the body-mind. You see? So it attacks that right on, doesn't it? Right? That's right. And it starts breaking in you these habits of attention and energy that you have formed that has been responsible for maintaining the presumption that I am the body-mind. Do you have to understand? You all have developed some very bad habits in terms of your attention. All of your attention is involved in perpetuating and maintaining this false sense of self as the body-mind. All your attention and all your energy is involved in that process. Are you following me? Involved to the point of habit. You see? And your ego-reinforcing habits of attention has to be broken. So that a sufficient amount of energy and attention has been freed up so that you may become capable of having the radical intuition of yourself as pure consciousness, Sarvarupa. Are you following me? You can't experience yourself at the level of pure consciousness simply because you don't have enough energy and attention available for such a revelation, for such a seeing, for such an intuition. You can't see it for the life of you. And that is your confession. Guru Sahib, I don't see how I'm consciousness. Right. You don't see. And you can't see because you don't have enough freed up attention and energy to see it. You don't have enough attention available to see it. How will you see it? All your attention is absorbed and consumed in the maya and the illusion of being this body-mind. You are distracted. You have spiritual attention deficit disorder. So the function then of the siddha, the siddhi of the guru, the force of the guru, is to break down this ego, to change these habits of attention, and thereby free up the energy and attention necessary that enables you now to have this profound intuition and realization of self as pure consciousness. Yes. In fact, it is the basis of insanity, isn't it? Sure. You become so self-possessed you go insane, don't you?
Now let me get back to my rotation. Kunsa, you had something to say, and then this brother here. So I haven't forgotten, in spite of being 52. No? We'll pass it on to you before you.
Earlier you were talking a little bit about, I don't know how to put this in context, but when Melinda mentioned about this knowledge not being, or some people will not get it, so to speak, then the entire life is wasted. What is the point then and the purpose of our existence?
Actually, I was being facetious.
The truth of the matter is that, And your question is a profound question. There's a book there called The Philosophy of Sadhana. And there's a part in there where I talk a little bit about that, because that's a real question. What happened to those who are not involved in any kind of sadhana, abhyasa, or the spiritual process? Are they just doomed forevermore? The answer is a big one, and it will take more time than we have. So that's why I mentioned the book. And Mahasavi, you have a book? All right. And maybe if you know that spot in the book, maybe you can let him read it afterwards. But the reality, you see, beloved, is that all manifest forms and variants of God, i.e. beings like you and me, and even insects, and every other kind of being, will ultimately become God realized, period. It is involved in the process of evolution and return to that condition. Now, to understand that fully, you will have to enter into some very profound considerations. But I think intuitively you knew that that would be the case. Since everything is a manifestation of God, it is already God. So it's not God. You see? It is God. And yes, so why don't they know it? That was necessary for the experience of this drama. What is happening is a profound matter, beloved. In the philosophy of the sadhana, that whole book is about that. You know, why this? Why all of this? How all of this? You see? And the short answer is that this one and only one being in reality, call it God, in order to have the experience of his or her or its own glory, infinite glory, split itself into infinite points of views to behold its own glory. It is a profound matter. It is a profound matter. The one became the many in order to turn back and look at its own glory, to experience its own glory and all of the immensity of it. You see? Now, there's a lot more to be said about that, truly. I have outlined the whole process in the philosophy of sadhana, based on the insights of the ancient African sages and mystics, especially those mystics that were responsible for the emergence of the mythic theology, as well as those heirs to that wisdom tradition in India in the form of Trika, Savaism. And I've made that whole argument and have outlined that whole process. Yes, beloved?
So, with this being the case, that he split himself like this, and, you know, in your, my buddy over here introduced me to your anger management thing.
Okay.
And I've been listening
What
to
is your
it.
buddy's name over there?
Mikhail.
New York.
New York City.
Oh,
boy. Welcome.
And what I'm curious with is that you talk a lot about relationships. And where then, well, I assume that it doesn't matter what our relationship with one another, or maybe does, and our relationships would be just focused on that existence. Is it?
Yes. I mean, you're asking some very, very good and profound questions. I wish we lived here. We need to go and sit over some tea somewhere, like I've done with so many of these rappers, and take our time. Because true life.
Fine food, you know what I mean? It requires a whole ambiance. You know, the lighting has to be right. There's too light in here, you know what I mean? So we could take our time, because your question is a very, very profound question. And it all begins with, as I said earlier, first becoming freed from the illusion and the ignorance associated with the illusion of being the body-mind. and recovery of the experience of being this individuated point of consciousness, just pure consciousness, without qualification. To be able to recover the experience of how this body-mind has been a kind of superimposition onto this pure consciousness for the purposes of converting things into experiences. It is a profound matter. This body-mind apparatus is a profound thing. It's an apparatus. It's a machine. It's the body-mind machine, and it is an incredible machine. It is karma dea. It is the machine that enables you to take actions. You see, it's a machine that is converting this whole thing into experience. Think about it. That machine next to your consciousness is converting atoms and molecules and flashes of light into me. That's a profound machine that does that. It is converting them into your wife, your children, and giving you all of that experience. This machine is something. Now, when you discover, however, that the reality underlying that machine, you discover at the same time and simultaneously the reality that is underlying all machines. And then you come to the realization that this very same self that is characterized as pure consciousness, that is in and underneath this body machine in you, is the exact same self in everybody else. Beloved, if I took your consciousness and put it in Mikael's body and took his, you would not know the difference in your own experience. It is only one self being manifest in various forms. Like electricity is one. Is that right? Now we can plug all these gadgets in, can't we? These are gadgets. It's not the source of the electricity, is it? So if you can realize and recover the experience of your own inherent divinity, then it paves the way for you to come into an entirely different relationship with other people, because you are no longer seeing them as other people. That's the first thing that drops out. You are now able to experience them at the level of their divinity, and that forces you to be loving. Please make a note. Priscilla G. asked earlier, how do I achieve that? And I was saying then that you have to transcend so that you can see, this is God here. How can you not be anything but unconditionally loving? But unless you can see the divine nature of the other, or the presumed other, then you cannot respond with unconditional love. That is based on a profound seeing, isn't it? You can't unconditionally love a person that you really secretly in your heart feel is an asshole. You can't do that. What you're doing, you are simply making yourself false. You are making yourself phony. You are splitting yourself. You're becoming schizophrenic. You are saying one thing and feeling something altogether different. You don't like him. You don't even like this bastard at the level of their personality. But I'm going to try to be nice and loving. You can't do that. You simply must become capable of seeing the divine nature and inherent divinity. You must be able to see past personality. And then you will respond to that. And then automatically your interaction will be one of love. You are compelled to do I love you on the basis of such a revelation. Are you following me, beloved? And that moves you into an entirely different level, doesn't it? Right? Entirely different ball game is going on here. It is a profound matter. Relationships become worship. Your relationships become characterized by what we call seva. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept. Okay, hook them up, McCall. Seva. You serve that divinity. You serve that in others. You serve that which is divine in others. Because that is what you see. Now, you can't do this through a process of analysis, logical analysis. You see? Sitting down and Okay, I'm consciousness and blah, 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 and therefore he's consciousness. And it doesn't work like that. You see, it's still, you have to actually realize the other person's inherent divinity. That's a realization, right? That's realization. That's not logic. That's not analysis. That's realization. And that realization can't be had unless you have sufficient attention and energy available for such a realization. Are you following me, beloved? Hence the necessity to enter into the ego transcendent ordeal. Hence the necessity to become the lucky recipient of the grace and the Shaktipat of the Guru. Without the grace of the Guru, you will never have that kind of realization. You simply can't have it. You can't get there through psychology. You can't get there through anger management. That's my tease. You know, that's how I sucker you all in. I got to see all these people I suckered in. Oh, God, they thought they had found some psychology that will heal them of all of their ego disease. I'm getting me some of that. Get some of that psychology. That brother got some good psychology. I get them here, you know, I hook them up. I trap them. Anaraji, beloved, something to say now?
No, you were talking about the body mind makeup, you know, and I was just thinking that the body, you know, it occupies space, you know, time and space. That was the full extent of it.
Yes, of course, this body-mind naturally
Exist in time and space. Consciousness is prior to time and space. Time and space is arising in consciousness, not consciousness in time and space. It's just the opposite. Are you following me? That is why it is said that this consciousness, this pure consciousness, that is you as well as God, has no beginning because it is prior to time. It has no end because it is prior to time. It is nowhere because it's prior to space. It is not like this pure consciousness that you are is located out here in space somewhere. Like, you know what I mean? Back over here, you know, you're on the west side of space or from the south side of space. It's not like that. It is beyond and prior to space. Space is arising in it. It is amazing. For it, and from its point of view, space is an object. Profound. Absolutely profound. And that is what happens, you see, whenever you have the experience of yourself as you really are. Now remember, I am not talking about a process that is going to convert you from body, mind, into consciousness. I am not talking about a process that will somehow make you down the road something than you already are. I am saying to you that you are always and already this. So you don't have to do something to become divine. You are divine already. You don't have any option in the matter. The spiritual process is simply about removing the ignorance that is obscuring the experience of being divine. Hence the African sages and mystics, you see, they never talked about, you see, union with God. The unio mystica of the Western mystics was not their argument. The argument was, Anukasa aham brahma, say, I am God. And you just need the realization, the removal of the ignorance. It is always and already the case. What else could you be? So there's nothing that you're doing in time to become God. What is required and time and space is you're engaged in the process that ultimately removes the ignorance that is obscuring your experience of your own inherent divinity. And you must engage that process rigorously. You must enter into the process. The process is not an event. BBG and I were discussing this very matter. The guru process. What in some traditions is referred to as the guru upaya, the means of the guru. The guru is the means. The guru is not just a body of flesh and blood. The guru is that process that you are initiated into through this body. Are you following me? Enjoy the distinction. The guru body is a body like any other body, as far as bodies goes. But it is an agency of that Shakti put. That is an agency of that process of grace. Grace is a process. It's a real process. It has to be engaged. That is why in the tradition, beloved, it has been said that the guru is the method and the method is the guru. The guru is the method and the method is the guru. So that once the guru has initiated you, have bound you to the method, even when the guru's body fall away, that method, that ayasa, gurus you all the way to liberation. The process gurus you. You follow me? The guru is a process. The guru is an activity that the physical guru initiates you into, gets you involved in it. And you must remain involved in that process all the way to the end. Unlike what you all do, you get up, you do, a little meditation. It's an event for you, and then you're done until tomorrow. You follow me? For you, it's an event. You have not understood. The Guru Upaya. There is no vacation from that. It is a process. Once entered into, you must abide in that process all the way to the end. And until you understand that, you see, then you will not be able to make any kind of use of the Guru's company. You will not be even aware, let alone receptive to, the city of the Guru. It will not operate in your case. You will not even feel the influence of the Guru. People go to Gurus, beloved, just for the sake of accessing that grace. And then staying right in that grace until they cross over. So this is what is involved in this time and space that you are in. And you have to start here in time and space because that's where you're at. You follow me? That's not where you're going. That's not where you will end up at. The state of enlightenment is not some kind of conversion of this space and time. But this is where you're at, so it starts here. This process is what moves you out and beyond space and time. Yes, beloved?
Talk about the African mystics and the view that we're divine, inherently divine. And I guess obviously, for many of us, if we come to, the
divine? Well, you know.
What book do I need to
What book you need to
I mean, that's a big shift.
Yes, it's a long story. And what lifetime are you talking about? This lifetime or?
What lifetime did you lose it, or did you ever have it?
I guess I mean, not in a lifetime. Where did we?
Lose this way. What happened?
Not us as not me as an individual or us, but where did the shift take place? That we don't
You're
even.
asking the same kind of question as our beloved brother from New York is asking.
Did the mystics stop talking about it?
No. You have to understand. You have to understand.
Lots of things have happened that you will have to understand to really understand this thing here. Now, if you're talking culturally, as people in the West and so forth and so on, and the presumption was that, well, there must have been a time in the West when people operated out of this. No, that is not the case. There has been no time in the Western civilization where people have operated out of that. You see my point? So it wasn't like that. Another way of looking at it, you see, beloved, is the Hindu mystics have divided experience that occur in terms of yugas. Satya Yuga, Kali Yuga, and all of that stuff. You know all of this. This is Kali Yuga. You're living in Kali Yuga. You're a Kali Yuga being. You see, beings living in this time are at maximum degree of ignorance. Right? This is a dreadful time that we're living in. Great darkness. You see? Kali Yuga. It is characterized by the absence of any kind of divine intuition of who you really are. You see? But at the same time, it is a time of great grace because the divine, the eternal source of knowledge that is necessary and that effectively remove this ignorance, that is also much more active now. You follow me? That is what the influence of these mystics and sages are. They are ways of destroying this ignorance that is inherent in the times that we're living in. Part of the meaning of the word guru itself is one who dispels such darkness. The guru is that light that dispels this darkness. Guru, you see? And what is this darkness? It is ignorance. And what it is ignorance of your own divine nature. And it is this ignorance that is part of the function and one of the benefits of the guru's company. Because that ignorance will not be addressed, and it certainly will not be destroyed anywhere else that you will turn to. You go to the church, you go to the mosque, you can go to the temple, you can read the books. That's not going to dispel it. You follow me? This ignorance must be dispelled. It must be wiped out. You must become liberated from that ignorance. You must attain the knowledge that sets you free. In the tradition of St. Martin, we call it numb. You must get numb. You see? You must get that knowledge, by having which you are able to be liberated from your ignorance. And remember, beloved, at retreat I define ignorance as incomplete knowledge. It's not like you don't have no knowledge. It's just that your knowledge is incomplete. You follow me? That's what ignorance is. Not the absence of knowledge. It is incomplete knowledge. That's what makes it so dangerous. Because sometimes your ignorance feels like knowledge because it has a little knowledge in it. And therefore you become attached to your ignorance as if it was some great knowledge. And part of the ordeal that the guru have with us is first trying to get the your knowledge out of you, trying to get you to let go of your knowledge that is really ignorance because you're clinging to your ignorance. And the Guru says, Nasavam Karasi, right? Yati. Nothing that exists is not God. Tatwamasi, and so are you. That's some profound knowledge, if you can make use of it. But to make use of it, you must let go of all of your preconceived notions in that very moment of that transaction. Is that right, beloved? But it is the dispensation of that kind of knowledge that is necessary to undermine this ignorance that we all suffer from. The African sages, thousands of years ago, understood that until you get it, then you will remain ignorant. Tabajebe olonumni. If it is, it's God. Now get it. That contains profound knowledge. But as long as you are ignorant of yourself as pure consciousness, you see, beloved, then you suffer. That's my whole point. And you say, how did we get like this? Well, you're living in the Kali Yuga. That characterizes the Kali Yuga. Everybody is like you. So don't take it personal. That is the Kali Yuga. It is characterized by great ignorance like this. You see? And it's just by grace, you see, that a few lucky souls come in contact with knowledge, with Dharma, with gurus. Just a few lucky souls. And even among those few lucky souls that come in contact, only a few of them are able to make use of it. Only a few are governed by a profound impulse and desire to be liberated, who really wants to be free. Barah, as the mystics in the Santma tradition has called it. You see, Barah, intense longing. You must really want to be free. I mean, we can go on with a lot of esoteric bullshit here. You see my point? But the reality is that you got to sit down with it and you got to see, do you really want to be free? Do you really want to be happy? No fooling. No kidding. Are you willing to do what it takes? I mean, you got to sit with that. Do you want a real life? Do you really want to live? Not this kind of ego existence you got where you are always on the run from pain, suffering, discomfort. You see, always driven by fear of the inevitability of your own death and dying, just terrified, scared any moment that, damn, I hope it don't be the day. It's a nice day outside. You see, just constantly living under this kind of duress. So do you really want to live? It is only when one has really become free from and liberated from the clutches of this limitation of this ego that one becomes alive for the first time. You really become alive. But Bunny will give you the last word for that.
In the book of Sunday, she covers true discipleship. And one of the things that you mentioned that we must come into an authentic state of individuality. superficial, but individuality is a very deep thing. And I wondered if you would expound on that, because you didn't really expound on it in the book, and I was stuck there.
Now, which part was it, the real disciple?
Individuality. You said we must come into an authentic state of individuality in becoming a true disciple. And you said that personality is kind of a superficial thing, but we must become authentic individuals. And I wonder what that looks like as a true disciple.
Well, let's talk first about what it means to be a true disciple.
We have said something about it already, haven't we? Most often you see we confuse discipleship with some kind of lesser form of relationship with the Guru, where we are trying to butter up to the Guru, you know what I mean, and all that, you know, trying to be pals, hanging out, blah, 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 blah. Or our relationship with the Guru is based upon the Guru personality. We're attracted to the Guru's personality. We think he's a swell guy or swell lady or whatever it is, you see. But in real discipleship, you're not in relationship to the personality of the Guru. All gurus have their own individual personalities, and quite frankly, some gurus are just perfectly straight up assholes. You know what I mean? As far as personality goes. They're rude and sensitive. You follow me? Even some were known to be violent. A disciple would come, ask him a question, the Guru answered it, and he didn't get it, he'd take him and just throw him out the window. Just throw your ass out the window, you see? Or ask you something, you don't know the answer, hit you with a stick. Woo! You know what I mean? You see? Buddha Dharma wouldn't even face those who came down. He'd sit with his back to you. It's rude. You're talking to him, answer questions, he act like you're not even there. You see? But even out of that kind of rude posture and personality structure, that housed the great God-man that was Buddha Dharma, he always responded to the real seeker. And on that occasion, when such a real seeker came to see him, he remained with his back to him. And the Guru asked to have his audience, that he was just a real seeker. You need it coming for Nam. He's understood. He's on it now. Governed by Bara, intense longing, real. Life and death. He ain't walked all the way over here and walked up this damn mountain to be playing. This man is real. And he asked Buddha Dharma, you know, give me that Nam. Buddha Dharma ignored him like he wasn't even there. Man hacked off his arm and sling it around and said, you give me the Nam next to be my head. Buddha Dharma had to turn around. He's a real disciple. In terms of possessing the requisite level of intensity and bera and real seriousness. You follow me? He's not there to be cured of his ego disease. You follow me? The real disciple is characterized by great devotion. Not necessarily to the personality of the Guru, but to the Guru process that is given them at the time of initiation. You follow me, beloved? To be devoted to one's meditation, one abhyasa, one's simpram bhajan dhyan. That's what real devotion to the Guru is. You handling that business. You see, you have entered into that process, and you abide in that process. You ain't going nowhere. You see, your simpram bhajan and dhyan, your abhyasa, your sadhana, your seva, that's not an event. That's all the time for you. It's all consuming for you. You follow me? You're devoted to that. It is unconditional. It does not matter whether I had a nice rest at night. You see my point? Does not matter if my money is all right. Don't matter if the body is feeling all right. You see? The abhyasa is going down. You follow me? Because you're devoted to the process that has been given you at the time of your initiation. That's devotion to the Guru. The Guru is this process, most fundamentally. And it takes a real special kind of individual to become capable of such devotion. Only authentic individuals are capable of that level of devotion. Are you following me, beloved? That's what I meant by real, authentic disciple. Real, authentic individuals, you see, can play the game at that level. You can't bullshit the Guru. Guru is not taken in by your crocodile tears and your nice little words, and your meaningless babble in the form of praise. Show me the Aryasa. Show me what you're working with. That's what the Guru is interested in, not your flattery. You see my point? And how many of us can really say that we have that kind of devotion? Truly. How many of us can claim such integrity? Seriously?